And welcome to
Rising.
Dave Campbell's
Rising.
Episode
It's like
3.
the James Bond thing, you know? No.
Are you done?
All right, I'm done.
Episode 3 of Dave Campbell's Rising. And if you're new here, welcome into the newest internet show of the DCTF lineup, where we are constantly shining the light on Texas high school football prospects all across the Lone Star State. My name is Mallory Hartley. I'm the coordinating producer of recruiting here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and I get the honors of sitting alongside the director of recruiting at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and that's Greg Powers.
What an intro. I don't know how I'm going to live up to that for the rest of this show, but I'll try.
You're never going to live up to it because that was the best intro that you're ever going to hear.
Good headlines this week, though, so I'm excited.
Good stuff in the works here for Dave Campbell's Rising Episode 3. I'll go ahead and give you a quick rundown before we jump right into it. Like Power said, we've got a couple of headlines here. We've got a flip that we're going to talk about. You guys probably already know. We're going to talk about UTEP and their 2026 class that they've been able to put together so far. Then we're going to talk about Bill Belichick and UNC being able to pull in a defensive lineman from Texas. And then we've got an interview with Frisco Panther Creek athlete Jalen Lott here in the back half of the show. And then we're going to round it all out and take a look at Duncanville's coming class of 2026, class of 2027. Loaded roster in general, because shocker, they're going to be loaded once again heading into the 2025 season. So, packed show. Shall we go ahead and get started?
Let's do it.
All right. First up here, you guys have probably already heard, but South Lake Carroll 2026 four-star wide receiver Brock Boyd flips his commitment from TCU to The Ohio State University. Do you like how I put the "the" on there?
I like that.
You like that? He is an absolute freak show. He caught 111 passes for 1,875 yards and 19 touchdowns in total as a junior. And if you haven't seen our full breakdown, we're not going to spend too much time on this commitment because we want to talk more about TCU's wide receiver class. You can check the full Brock Boyd breakdown out on our YouTube channel. But just a little bit here before we move on to TCU's class, tell me what you really like about this fit for Brock Boyd.
Well, I think he's a Brian Hartline clone. I think that's something we touched on in the full recap of his flip from TCU to Ohio State. I think that's a name that jumps to the top of my head. Another name that I noticed on social media going around was Chris Olave. I think that's a pretty good comparison.
That's a great comparison.
Didn't sink into my head at that time. But somewhere in the middle of those two receivers for Ohio State's a pretty good spot to be in, I think.
Well, and you take a look at some of the receivers in the NFL that Ohio State has pumped out, even from the state of Texas. I mean, you've got Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Who wouldn't want to play at Ohio State if you're a receiver?
They recruited at a very high level.
Right.
But that brings the question up.
What's TCU going to do?
Right.
So right now, they only have 2 offensive commits in the class of 2026, and we've already kind of hit on that. That's Jordan Burnett, offensive tackle out of Missouri City, and then the Woodlands quarterback, Jack Dalton, but no receivers. There's a couple here on the list that you probably should keep an eye on that TCU is targeting. And we'll start off here with Zion Robinson out of Mansfield, one of my personal favorites.
For sure.
The class of 2026, 6'4", 180, caught 42 passes for 527 yards and 8 touchdowns. But he also has an official visit scheduled to Stanford, something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But there's a good connection here for TCU. He's the son of TCU track coach Kadivus Robinson, so there's a natural built-in pipeline for Zion to potentially land at TCU. Now, anytime you're battling against Stanford, you're battling against something that's unique and original, right? The high-end academics, it's something that Stanford offers with a good football program. A lot of teams don't offer that, so Stanford is in a league of its own when it comes to that aspect of the recruiting process, but what TCU offers is a family connection and a place to play close to home. Mansfield's right down the street from TCU, as we know, and there's a really strong connection at Mansfield ISD sending players to TCU. Jacoby Hayes, namely off of last year's team.
I remember Jacoby Hayes.
To be Zion Robinson's teammate.
Yep.
But he's not the only wide receiver thereafter. I think TCU's got some good options, all shapes and all sizes.
Jaden Warren, another one of my favorites out of Iowa Colony. He's 6'1", 195-pound outside receiver, caught 26 passes for 613 yards and 14 touchdowns. And it always seems like I see another, so-and-so offered. We follow each other on Twitter. So he's got his pick of the litter here, but why do you think TCU would be a good fit for him?
Well, I think they've done a pretty good job of building a relationship up with Jaden Warren, turning up the heat a little bit in the face of this Brock Boyd flip to Ohio State, circling back around to make sure that he understands that he's one of the top priorities on their board. And at 6'2", he is one of the elite track runners in the state, so he offers a rare combination of size and speed. As a matter of fact, all of the guys on this list run pretty well and have good size.
Speaking of good size, moving on to our last one, and it's James Scott, wide receiver out of Conroe Oak Ridge, 6'5", 200 pounds. He caught 59 passes for 958 yards and 10 touchdowns in his junior campaign. And he already has an official visit scheduled with TCU on June 12th.
Yeah, I think TCU, I talked a little bit with James Scott at the Under Armour camp down at Houston, and I come away from that conversation feeling like TCU's in a really good spot for James Scott and his recruitment. And if you like a jumbo flex style wide receiver who's kind of like a hybrid tight end, but is an athletic enough guy to go to the outside and present some red zone mismatches and move the chains, in big first down situations, I think James Scott offers that versatility, and he really understands how to use his body to box out defenders.
I think TCU's going to be okay.
Yeah, they're going to be fine.
I think they're going to be just fine, as they
always
are.
Recruiting wide receiver talent every class. I know that,
especially in the state.
I know that right now it hurts, it stings, to lose Brock Boyd off of that commitment list. But there's plenty of good options for TCU in this class. So the Horned Frogs fans ought to be fired up and see which ones that they can reel in.
Another program that should be super fired up here: the UTEP Miners and Scotty Walden. They land their first 4 commitments in the class of 2026, all from the state of Texas so far. And I really, really like this list. I'm going to go ahead and name off the 4 that we're going to be talking about. We've got Seminole offensive tackle Chase Elrod, Marshall offensive guard Eric Perkins, El Paso Chapin wide receiver Davion Singleton, and then Rockwall tight end Jackson Stover. And I really like that impressive DFW poll by Scotty Walden and the Miners.
Yeah, no doubt. Jackson Stoner at Rockwall. This is a guy, I've been doing rankings at DCTF. We go back to 2012, right? I've had the fullback position on these rankings since 2012. Never had a player to put in the fullbacks list. So far, the fullback is like a thing of the past. I look at Jackson Stoner as being the closest thing to a true fullback that I've covered since 2012 in the Lone Star State. And that's pretty cool to say that because he's so versatile, good H-back style type of tight end. So I just wanted to give a shout out to fullbacks before I put my bow.
Shout out to fullbacks.
I want to put my bow on what Scotty Walden and UTEP has done over the last couple weeks by pulling in these commitments. 2 big men in Elrod and Perkins that are going to set the foundation for the offensive front, and keeping Davion Singleton at home.
That's a big one.
This is a big El Paso class, and there are 4 guys in this class that I really like, and Davion Singleton is one of those. So to be able to keep one of the top players in the city at home, I think that is one of the huge recruiting wins in this cycle so far for any team, regardless of what level they play at.
Well, and you and I talk about this a lot with recruiting is a very follow the leader type industry, right? So if you get a kid from El Paso and you get to keep him at home, people might start to follow, right?
Well, and it gives you something cool, like for the city to come watch on Saturdays, right? Because Davion Singleton is a freak show. He's only 5'9", but the electricity he brings to the table is going to have that fan base buzzing.
And man, let me tell you, if you guys didn't catch our early National Signing Day special back in 2024 in December, we had Scotty Walden on as a guest. The energy that he brings to the table, the passion that he has for the game and for recruiting and, for the rest of his staff, it's remarkable. I think I know he's only been there for a little bit, but I think he's a perfect fit for UTEP, and his players seem super excited to be a part of his squad.
They do a tremendous job on the recruiting trail. As a matter of fact, watching UTEP over the last couple seasons underneath the Walden has been one of the most fun things as like a Texas high school football / recruiting fan in general, just because of the energy that they bring. And they recruit some of the guys that we feel like are like the under the radar guys, right? Like our Dave Campbell's Texas football like favorites. They recruit some of these guys and give them a chance to play at the next level. I'm excited to see them actually suit up and do, you know what I mean?
Me too.
Like,
me
now
too.
it's coming. We get to watch these dudes.
I think we need an El Paso trip.
I think
staff
so
trip.
Too. Let's do it. Let's work it in. Let's see if we can put that into the budget.
I like it. And finally, our last headline of Rising, episode 3. It's a big one. UNC and Bill Belichick land a big one from the state of Texas. And that's Katie Jordan, defensive lineman, Jimmy Frisco, Alo Suliafu. Did I do it?
Well done.
Let's go. I've been practicing that. I'm super pumped about that. 6'3", 265 pounds, collected 70 tackles. Okay, before I name off all these stats, I listed all of them because to me, it just shows how dynamic he is and that he can seriously do it all. So with that being said, he collected 70 tackles, 15 tackles for a loss, 8 sacks, 2 pass breakups, 1 fumble recovery, 1 forced fumble, 1 safety, and 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown. Talk about doing it all.
Yeah, he brings a lot to the table. And he was one of these guys that was in our DCTF Rising top 25 when he was a freshman. Before he transferred to Katie Jordan, he was one of the only freshmen that I can ever remember starting for Gary Joseph's program at Katy, which is one of the top 6A programs in the Lone Star State. And to put this into perspective for UNC fans that may be watching this, Katie Jordan plays in a district that is just chock full of talented teams. So this is a battle-tested dude coming into a Bill Belichick program. I'm excited to see the future.
Yeah,
and what it's going to be. But even more so, I'm now paying attention to what UNC is doing in the Lone Star State, which prospects they're recruiting. And I noticed a trend that they're really coming to Texas for defensive linemen, namely. They took their shot at Jake Johnson.
Right.
They missed. He committed to USC, but they were able to backfill that with a great commitment from Alo Suliafu. And they're also after Daryl Campbell from Katy Pato, who happens to play in the same district. He's 6'3", 315 pounds. And he's a true interior guy, like a nose guard, whereas I can see Jimmy being like a 5-tech, 3-tech guy that they can slide around. So I'll be interested to see if they can land a couple of these defenders from the Lone Star State. And then also you should make sure you put those guys on your radar because could they be pros one day? It's something to monitor, at least. It's fun. Bill Belichick to me is fun.
Well, and Katy Pato and UNC are the same colors too. So
yeah, there you go.
I love the baby blue. That's one of my favorite
I guess
colors.
It would be Pato blue there.
Pato blue, yes. But anyways, UNC and Bill Belichick cleaning up in the state of Texas. Keep your eyes on North Carolina's recruiting trail. All right, we are Dave Campbell's Rising. This is episode 3. If you're new here, welcome. We love to shine the light on Texas high school football prospects all across the Lone Star State. We've got a packed show for you here, but right now, I got to sit down with Frisco Panther Creek athlete Jalen Lott last week to talk about some of the official visits that he has coming up, as well as a little bit about his childhood and that he kind of played basketball pretty professionally for a couple years, AAU. He was very, very fun to talk to. So without further ado, here is my interview with Frisco Panther Creek athlete Jalen Lott. Sitting here with Frisco Panther Creek, 4-star, 2026. Now I'm gonna say athlete, okay?
Yes,
I can't not say athlete. We have you as an athlete, so athlete. Jalen Lott. So you and I were sitting down before this. I was kind of asking you about, where you grew up, where you were born. You're actually not from Texas. You weren't born in Texas.
No, man.
Now, would you label yourself as a Texas native now, like a Texas guy?
I'll probably say so, yeah.
Yeah?
I feel like at this point, I've been here seems like so long now. Since through elementary school, a little bit elementary school and through middle school and now high school. I say so. I'm probably a Texas native.
But you've played basketball too.
Yes, ma'am.
And you played it at a pretty high level. So talk to me a little bit about that experience.
I was actually, because my mom mostly was super serious about basketball. Because, every one of us played it. Me and both my sisters, we all played it. So I played AAU a lot, like really seriously through 7th grade, a lot of traveling and stuff like that. And like, it gets really serious. Like, I mean, I was going to different states and I was like in 6th grade, and it was crazy.
So you talked about your mom a little bit. She played basketball at the University of Texas. Your dad was a corner at the University of Texas. Your sister runs track at USC. And your other sister plays basketball at UNLV.
Yes,
so obviously you're gonna be a good athlete, right? You've got athletics running through your genes. How do you think that's developed you into the athlete that you've become today?
I'd probably say it definitely feels like a lot of things come more natural for sure. Because, just, the genes and stuff like that. And, like this like recruiting process, being able to see my sisters go through it, and then obviously my dad and my mom both went through it, I'm able to like, I feel like see this stuff a lot easier than a lot of people. Just kind of become more prepared and, just, have like I feel like a step ahead of everybody else when it comes to stuff like this.
And you have that natural roadmap. You said your whole family's kind of gone through that recruitment process, and now you're kind of going through it a little bit. Now I'm curious. So your sister, your mom, basketball, your dad, football. So were they kind of going head to head saying, no, Jalen's gonna play football. No, Jalen's gonna play basketball. And how did you decide that you're like, nah, I'm going with football?
Actually, yeah, like my mom was really fighting for me to play basketball throughout my whole high school like career. Like if it was up to her, I'd be playing basketball right now. But I mean, it was like, cause I started playing football like middle school-ish, but I was still playing basketball. But I noticed that I really started to like really like football like a lot more than basketball. And I think my mom saw that too my freshman year, so I finally told her, I feel like I just want to focus on football and, obviously track and stuff like that. And she finally, gave in and just let me hang up the basketball shoes and stuff like that and just, start focusing on football.
Your mom was like, you're like, Mom, trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me, I got it.
Because, I mean, I was really, I was pretty good at basketball. So, like, I could see why she didn't want me to, stop. But it was just like one of those things where it's like, I just like football more.
Well, no, look at you. You're one of the top athletes in the state of Texas.
So I'm glad she listened to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So from Chicago, you moved up here, and you actually played your sophomore year at Lovejoy. You started on varsity as a sophomore. Now you started last year as a junior here at Frisco Panther Creek, and you're entering your senior year.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to me a little bit about what it's been like playing football at the highest high school level in Texas, playing at the varsity level.
Right. It's definitely been like, obviously, I feel like in Texas, it's like incomparable to other states for sure with the competition. I mean, you're running to somebody that has like the same amount of offers as you or something like that, just right across from you. Being able to play against that, like I said before, I feel like it gives people in Texas like a one step ahead than other states, just becoming in more prepared. Because I mean, there's a lot of good players in Texas, and especially around this area too. Like, I mean, it's like, you go up against somebody every day.
Well, I was gonna say, you've got two of them, the best here. You and Donovan Webb, who we had here just a moment ago with Greg Powers. So yeah, so you've had a very busy spring. We've seen all the places that you've been able to visit. Now let's talk about some of your official visits. You've got 4 right now. Let's start with Oregon. What makes the Ducks so special?
I mean, I love Coach Ross, the new receivers coach. When I first came out there, it was obviously Coach Adams. I created a really good bond with him, for sure, him and Coach Lennon, because they were recruiting me for the longest. And then, like the biggest thing was when Coach Adams left, Coach Ross came in, I was like, not so much. But, being able to go down there and see Coach Ross, and obviously Coach Lennon again, it just like, I mean, it's still the same. Like, I still really like them a lot, so.
All right, next official visit. Let's talk about the Buckeyes in Columbus. They're recruiting pretty hard in Texas right now. You saw Brock Boyd just committed, flipped his commitment the other day.
Yeah, I seen that. That's my boy right there at South Lake Carroll. But Coach Hartline, that's all I gotta say. And development. I mean, that's like, there's no other place you can go where like guarantee. I mean, it's just like a guarantee if you go there. It's just the proof's in the pudding. They don't gotta like sell too much. I feel like, and that's kind of what I like about them. Right. I mean, it's like they don't gotta sell too much. You just gotta kind of look. Go see for yourself. I mean, like, look at everybody else they got there. I mean, they just, the way they showcase the receivers and stuff, and I feel like, the biggest thing there is you probably got to wait for your time, but like, when your time come up and you do what you're supposed to do, you're like guaranteed to make it to the league. feel like.
So finally, let's move on to the last list.
I know which one you're gonna say.
Last official visit you have on your schedule, University of Texas. Got some family ties there.
Yeah.
You know? And I know that off the field, Texas does mean a lot to you because both your parents went there. Talk to me a little bit more about on the field stuff. You know, what attracts you so much to Texas, maybe more so on the field, or maybe the coaching staff, the relationships that you've been able to develop there?
So, but I really also had a good relationship with Coach Terry Joseph, but, you know, he recently went to the Saints. You know, obviously another big thing was, you know, getting down there and seeing Coach Orfe. You know, being able to get down there and see him, you know, build a relationship with him, he's a great guy. And then obviously Coach Sarkisian and Coach Jackson, like, you know, and they also taught me about playing both ways there, you know, which would be cool. So I'd actually started at corner there, and then they put in packages for me on offense and stuff like that, obviously when I mastered corner and stuff like that, which really intrigued me. Because, I mean, Sarkisian, like, when he says something like that, you can look, he did it with Adoree Jackson and other players. So, like, a lot of people say that, but he's the one that's also
keeps his word.
Yeah, and actually done it. So I feel like that really intrigues me about them, for sure.
So it is important for you to play both ways in college, you think?
I say so, because I feel like I could definitely be good enough. I'm good enough to do both. So
absolutely.
I feel like the biggest thing is, you know, just giving me a chance to do that. But I feel like mastering one position first is most important.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, obviously pushing me into playing a different position, and then, you know, just going up from there.
Well, you know, Powers and I think that you're definitely good enough to play both because we labeled you as an athlete, right? Absolutely.
Yes,
we believe in you.
Yes, ma'am.
So finally, I want to ask you, now, obviously, don't give me a school or anything, but if you had to commit tomorrow, what would be that one deciding factor in that program that you commit to that makes you go, that's it, that's my college?
I'd probably say, I feel like that's just a feeling of like when you get there on like an OV, I feel like you can like really, because I feel like once I go on those, I'll be able to really, but I feel like asking players and stuff like that is also really important to figure out something like that, because I mean, they're going to tell you the real no matter what. So I feel like that'll push me also towards a decision. And then, you know, just kind of seeing like how would they treat me compared to somebody else that I know that's went there, or, you know, somebody else that's also on an OV with me, and, you know, being able to see how much they interact with me compared to somebody else.
Jalen, we are all rooting for you here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Thanks for taking the time, and good luck in all your endeavors.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Shall we just get into, here's a guy with Carter Yates?
Let's do it. My favorite segment. It's weird to pick a segment that's my favorite segment that I'm not in, maybe. But I love watching Carter break down the X's and O's on some of these under-the-radar players.
Well, and this is like his favorite segment too, because he's a very like under-the-radar type of guy. He loves to go out and just watch tape and grind film and find the players that might not have any FBS offers yet, but likes to bring them into the spotlight a little bit and shine the light on them. So without further ado, here is Carter Yates' segment, Here's a Guy. And today he's going to be talking about Brenham athlete Chris Guidry.
Attention Texas high school football fans, here's a guy that can catch a rabbit in a rainstorm. I'm talking about Brenham wide receiver Chris Guidry. Here's some facts. 6'2", 180 pounds, coming off a first team all-district wide receiver performance last season with 41 catches for 848 yards and 11 touchdowns. What sticks out to me on the film, and we're about to see it here, is this guy's catch radius. He'll catch anything thrown at him, oftentimes one-handed. In fact, head coach Danny Young says at spring football practice, he has to get on Chris because he says, man, you don't need to catch it one-handed all the time. You're just trying to make the defense look bad. Only to when he pops on the film later, he says, oh shoot, he actually did need to catch that one-handed. Just makes it look that easy, guys. This upcoming year, he's going to play both ways. At a 5A school, you don't see that very often. That shows you his physicality as a route runner and on defense. And I'll tell you what, With that 848 yards, I know that might not pop off the page to you, but that's because Brenham Young is not in the business of stat padding. They have a powerful running back in Jacoby Dixon, and oftentimes they will just try to ice the game after they get that lead. But you see that Chris Guidry makes most of his biggest plays and biggest games against the best teams in the playoffs. That's why we're about to watch him right here against the state champion Richmond Randall. But before they won that state title, Chris Guidry gave them all they could handle. Let's pop on that tape. The big time players make the big time plays in the biggest moments. You see this right here in round 3 against Richmond Randall. Let's just run it all the way through. Throws it up for Chris Guidry. That's a one-handed Odell Beckham Jr. catch right there, which I remember all too well because it was against my Dallas Cowboys. Let's turn it in slow motion. On the catch, high points the football. That's beautiful. And now I want you to watch the Richmond Randall sideline. We've got my man over here on the far left actually running away from the field with his head in his hands. This guy doing the surrender cobra at the 40-yard line, and then the two guys behind him hugging each other because they can't believe what just happened. You have the entire sideline freaking out because Chris Guidry just put their team on a poster. It doesn't get any better than that. And he kept doing it all game. Next play. Throw it again, loft it up, 9 route, Chris Guidry, automatic. Rewinding this right here, I'm gonna stop it at the high point of the football. That is perfect textbook coverage from Richmond Randall. You can't teach it better than that, but sometimes good offense beats good defense. And you see him get up, he's got some swag to him there, gets that first down. So we've seen what he can do, high pointing the football, catching 9 routes, but what is he like going across the middle? Well, here he is at the outside X wide receiver spot, and I love this play. He runs a post route, catches that ball, midfield. If you see the overhang safety, his job is to take Chris Guidry's head off and knock the ball out of his hands. But you see Chris Guidry, man, that's tough. He not only extends his entire body, high points the football, exposes that rib cage. He's fearless doing this, going up and making a play when his team needs it. Let's watch it one more time. Yeah, I love that. Out of all the catches he has in this game, that one might be my favorite right there because that's a Division I football catch and a Division I football player right there. But he only has one offer to Sul Ross State. And now there are other schools circling, hence why he was invited to UTEP's Junior Day. But not many are pulling the trigger because they want to see those verified track times that he doesn't have now. It doesn't matter that he's dunking it on the basketball court. He's making those plays in the 3rd round of the playoff game. They just want to see that track time. Well, I'm telling you right here, you're not recruiting a track star, you're recruiting a freaking football player, and that's what Chris Guidry is. I can see him playing on college football Saturdays in the future, and you heard that here first.
Joined out here by Hayden Gunner at Denton High School. Man, it's a big day for you. You got your decision coming right now.
After a lot of thinking with the family, talking, stressing out.
Let's see exactly where Malik Hawkins is going to be heading.
First off, I want to start by thanking God. Without him, I wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't be blessed with all these opportunities.
He's got 5 schools he's choosing between. We're about to find out who it's going to be.
Got your teammates, coaches, family, friends surrounding you, so you couldn't have a bigger stage right here to announce it on.
So without further ado, we're going to go to the man right here, Kobe Foreman.
Who's it going to be?
I will be attending.
I'll be committed to the University of Oklahoma.
University of Texas A&M.
Stanford University.
The University of Oklahoma. Yeah.
Thanks again, Carter, for your favorite segment. Here's a guy, and what a dude he found.
That photo,
I know.
sick.
That one-handed catch, sick.
Yeah, I love how he broke down the coaches and players on the sideline, reacting to it. I wish I would have been there for that moment. That was a good Texas high school football moment, but a good individual performance from Guidry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carter, for that blessing.
Thanks, Carter. Keep your eyes on Chris Guidry, athlete out of Brenham, Texas. All right, shall we round out this show? Episode 3 of Rising. as you can see behind us, we're going to be talking about the Duncanville Panthers. Have you heard of them before?
I think I have.
Yeah, I think they're in DFW, something like that.
They're usually a state championship contender?
Usually state championship contenders. They've always got a loaded roster. No introduction necessary.
More than double-digit prospects on every Duncanville team since Samples has been there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're just loaded year in and year out, and this next upcoming season is going to be no different. So let's go ahead and start it all off. We're going to be talking about 2026 defensive end KJ Ford, and sure enough, he is rated as the best defensive end in the class of 2026 in our rankings. And with a 6'3", 246-pound frame, he actually started as a sophomore and kind of quickly became one of the most sought-after prospects, I would say, in the state of Texas. He collected 57 tackles, 7 sacks, and 16 tackles for a loss during his junior campaign. And he'll take official visits to Alabama May 30th, USC June 6th, Auburn June 10th, and Oklahoma June 20th.
Yeah, KJ Ford is a freak show, and the thing that really opened my eyes to his talent was when he got to display it on the national scale at the Under Armour All-America game. This guy has an instant first step. He is in the backfield in a flash, terrorizing quarterbacks and tackling running backs behind the line of scrimmage. As he gets bigger, stronger, and actually refines his technique at the next level, I think sky's the limit for Ford, who could be a true college football star. I look at his dad's a big dude. So I got to meet KJ and his dad. His dad's a big dude too. So just thinking about what KJ is going to grow into when he becomes like a full grown man, you know, in a college strength and conditioning program, that's going to make some defensive coordinators' eyes light up whenever they sign him to a letter of intent.
It seems like Duncanville always has a ton of defensive ends, D1 defensive ends. Colin Simmons, ring a bell, who's now at Texas. And there's also another one, Division I prospect at Duncanville, who's an edge rusher. And that's 2026 Landon Barnes. He's the 3rd overall edge rusher in the class of 2026. 6'4", 235 pounds. He collected 43 tackles, 6 sacks, and 12.5 tackles for a loss in his junior campaign. And the DCTF 4-star is considering offers from Baylor, SMU, Arizona State, LSU, Georgia, Ohio State, Washington, and more. And he had an official visit already with Arizona State and has one scheduled to Washington May 30th.
Well, I guess what? You have the number 1 defensive end on your team, and there's a player on your own team that has a contentious, you know what I mean? Like if there's somebody that can contend with him being number 1, maybe it's Landon Barnes. Who's a unique defensive end to me because he's so versatile. He's a guy who can stand up and pass rush off the edge. He can put his hand in the dirt. He can drop back in coverage like a traditional linebacker, and he pursues well out to the flat. So Landon Barnes brings the total package, and he's a new age style of college football player that can fit into any defensive scheme, and that's why you've seen his recruitment take off.
And I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but Landon and KJ both took an unofficial to Ohio State this past weekend, or maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that. But they took a picture together, and Coach Lavender, who's the offensive coordinator at Duncanville, tweeted, "This could be a scary duo." And I was like, it feels right that they go to the same college, you know, because why break them apart? They're so lethal.
And they fit in well within any defensive scheme together. Right. Like their skills complement one another. I see them playing on most of the time opposite edges in Duncanville, but I can definitely see a college scenario where they're lined up right next to each other.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Let's move on to Zachary Turner, 2026 tight end. We've got him rated as the 2nd overall tight end in the state of Texas. I'm kind of noticing a trend here. All of these guys are in our top rankings. Like we said, he's 6'2", 215 pounds, kind of a hybrid tight end, wide receiver jumbo flex type of player. Collected 58 receptions for 933 yards and 16 touchdowns, and has official visits scheduled with SMU, Florida State, and Miami in Florida.
Not over 900 yards in a Duncanville offense. That's a career for some guys. And Zachary Turner put up amazing stats last year. You kind of hit the nail on the head. He is that hybrid wide receiver tight end. When he first burst onto the scene as a freshman, you thought for sure he was going to grow into a tight end because he was already 6'2", 6'3", 215 pounds. Well, he's grown to be one of the most physically imposing players in the entire state, but he's still around 6'3" in that 220, 225 pound range. So I do feel like it's not fair to categorize him strictly as a tight end because he's a wide receiver weapon as well. And I think even when he gets into college that he'll be utilized in that way. He's not really a player that you can put a tag on, right? I mean, you could put him as an athlete, but he's going to be a receiver. So we've rated him as a tight end. But I think that, he could easily just be rated as a receiver. He brings that skill set to the table.
Right. Moving on down the list here, let's talk about 2026 cornerback Braylon Edwards. He's rated as the second overall cornerback in the state of Texas. Another one that is on the top of our list from Duncanville. No shocker there. 6'1", 185, totaled 43 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 7 pass breakups, and 1 fumble recovery, and already has a couple of official visits scheduled to Utah, Arkansas, Wisconsin, and Auburn.
Over 40 scholarship offers for Braylon Edwards. He's one of my favorite sleepers in this class. College football is trending more towards a jumbo corner style, right? And you want these big-bodied cornerbacks who are also able to flip their hips and stay in coverage with these powerhouse wide receivers. Well, Braylon Edwards is that dude, and I'm surprised that he's not rated higher on some of the national lists as well. So I think he can bring a lot to any defense. He's got versatility because of his size. He could play safety. But with the way the game is trending right now, I think he's a lockdown corner, and you can put him on an island, and you can really depend on him. I think he proved a point when he jumped to Duncanville. He transferred up to play at the 6A level prior to the start of last season, and he immediately came into practice and let everybody know that he was a dude. And then he earned a starting role in one of the most loaded secondaries, not only in the state, but in probably the best secondary in the country. And he earned a starting role there. And that tells me he's competitive. And I love that. I love that in his projection.
It's called betting on yourself and winning.
Yeah, there you go.
It's awesome. Moving on, wide receiver Trenton Yancey, who is a transfer from Arlington Lamar. Transferred last year, played his first year at Duncanville last season. Could potentially be the number 1 wide receiver in the class of 2027. A potential 5-star. I'd say. He's 5'10", 180, caught 30 passes for 450 yards and 7 touchdowns, averaging 15 yards a catch for Duncanville in 2024. That's pretty good. And already holds 37 FBS offers, of course, from all the big-time programs.
Yeah, Trenton Yancey is the guy that I think that Panthers fans can look at to fill the shoes of DeCorian Moore, right? Whenever you lose DeCorian Moore off your team, that's going to be tough to replace. Well, we've rattled off 3 wide receiver names now on this list, and each one can make the case of why there's something different and why they're better than their own teammate, because they all have interesting qualities. And Yancey is the true outside receiver of the bunch, the most natural fit there to be a wideout, a guy that can be that number 1 guy to run the intermediate routes, but also stretch the defense vertically. And I look to him to step into that spot as being a field stretcher for Duncanville this year. It's nice to have Theus and Turner too, right? Take some of the pressure off. But I do feel like Yancey can be that marquee national level name. And I will have to do the rankings, and I do think that he's in the mix to be a top 5 receiver in that class. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to round it out, we'll stay on the offensive side of the ball and in the class of 2027, and we'll talk about offensive tackle, Aiden Williams. 6'4", 260 pounds, started as a freshman for Duncanville and helped lead them to the 6A Division I title in 2023. Big dude. Yeah, no doubt about it. Aiden Williams, I think, is the name that everybody's going to know about here in a couple of months, right? Because they're going to have to hit the reset button up front with a couple of guys. Well, Aiden Williams, he burst onto my radar when he was a freshman. You should have seen this dude's sub-varsity film. He was unbelievable. He was just completely mauling dudes. They called him up to the varsity team towards the end of his freshman season, and he got some spot play, a little bit of work, his freshman year, easing into it more as a sophomore last season. This is going to be his breakout year. So this is the name, I think, if you're looking as a Duncanville guy that you're going to be, everybody's going to know next year, and you don't really know that name yet, Aiden Williams is the name that you need to lock onto your radar. That 2027 class at Duncanville, people are sleeping on it a little bit because there's some dudes on there that nobody's talking about yet. Williams being one of them, Max Denson being another, and there are a couple of dudes over there with the last name of Barnes who everybody needs to keep an eye out for too, because as soon as the deck clears with some of these guys moving on to college, they got next up.
I saw a video of Aiden Williams. It was from, I think, 2023 state championship game or something, and he was signing a hat or something to somebody in the crowd, and boy, howdy, did he pass the eyeball test. He was massive as a freshman, so I'm excited to see his potential and his growth here up in the next coming years at Duncanville. Okay, I think that's going to do it for us.
Well, that was a good show, I think, and a lot of fans should be excited about a lot of the Texas teams and the talent in the Lone Star State.
Oh, yeah. Well, and just wanted to put another reminder out there. If you're a prospect in the state of Texas and you might be thinking about committing sometime here soon or releasing maybe your top 6, top 10 list, reach out to us on Twitter. You can reach out to Powers at GPowerScout or me at Mallory Hartley. DM us, give us your list, and we'll talk about you. Or if you want to live commit here in our studio, you could be sitting right next to me or right next to Powers in our studio in Louisville, Texas. Reach out to us. Yeah, we'll make it a day all about you. Go ahead and contact us, and let's get something going.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. I think that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much again for tuning into episode 3 of Dave Campbell's Rising, where we love to shine the light on Texas high school football prospects all across the Lone Star State. For Sam Moore, Vianney Moreno, Greg Powers, I'm Mallory Hartley. We'll see you next month for episode 4 of Dave Campbell's Rising.